Hi, Jim. Return my...
Really tied up. Listen, I'm pretty busy now. Can I call you later?
I just wanted to ask you about the party tonight. You're gonna pick me up, aren't you?
Look, we've talked about it. I don't want to go out together anymore. I just want to be friends, nothing else. You've got to stop pressuring me.
Jim, I'm sorry. I don't mean to pressure you. It's just that we meant so much to each other. Isn't it worth another try? I mean, we've got the party tonight. Maybe everything will work out.
Look, Amy, I might as well tell you now. You'll find out tonight anyway. I'm taking Judy to the party. Look, I gotta go now, okay?
Oh. Well, okay. Goodbye.
Amy never did go to the party. She didn't want to be there when Jim walked in with her. Amy didn't go anywhere for days. Getting headachy, not eating, not sleeping, not doing much of anything. When her dad said she should stop moping around, she became angry and tearful and told him to leave her alone. She was tired of everyone criticizing her. He left her alone. So did the rest of the family. They were afraid of upsetting her more. Amy was going through a crisis. Most of us have felt like Amy at one time or another. The causes may vary. It could be separating from a loved one, as in Amy's case, or problems at home or in school. You may not know for sure what's causing it, but you do know the feeling. It starts like a cold fist in the pit of your stomach and spreads through every part of your body. You think nothing will ever be the same again. These are the bad times, the crisis times. You feel miserable, alone, hopeless. The worst part is you feel helpless, like there's nothing you can do. But there is something you can do. There are definite recover more quickly. And best of all, once you learn these steps, they'll remain stored in your private memory bank for use anytime you have a crisis in your life. The first of these steps, to become aware of what you're feeling, is not always as easy as it sounds. Sometimes one feeling, such as anger, is covering up other, even more painful feelings. So, becoming aware may involve peeling back the layers of different feelings.
Miss, I ordered blueberry pie, not pecan. Why don't you pay attention?
What's going on, Amy? For the last few days, you've been making a lot of mistakes. And you've been discourteous to the customers. I'm warning you. You better work on your attitude.
If one more person criticizes me, I'll scream. I feel like the whole world...
Really rough on you, but there was no way he could understand.
Dan.
You know, about you and Jim, what you're going through. I never had a chance to tell you how sorry I am.
Don't waste your pity on me, Sarah. Jim played me for a sucker and I fell for it. I should have never bothered with someone so self-centered and disloyal. Then he left me looking like a fool going to that party with Judy, like I wasn't good enough for him anymore.
I didn't realize he did that. No wonder you're so mad. What a rat he turned out to be.
Oh, but he's not a rat. It sounds so awful when someone else says it. Why am I acting so angry? He tried to let me down easy. He was honest with me. That's one of the things I always liked about him. Guess I'm not really angry at Jim. But if I'm not...
Amy is finally beginning to deal with her feelings. She knows that she feels angry, but she's beginning to ask herself questions that will help her understand what's underneath that anger. That's the first step in dealing with a crisis. Take a look at what you're feeling about yourself and your life. Acknowledge your feelings. Name them. Don't judge them. Just allow yourself to feel them, even though it hurts. It's okay to feel whatever you do. If you don't get at what you're feeling, you just become overwhelmed by an unknown emotion, and that's pretty scary. In fact, it's so scary that instead of you controlling the emotion, it controls you. When that happens, you can't deal with a real problem. So, step one of the crisis technique for getting through the bad times is acknowledge your feelings. Allow yourself to experience them. Identify them. What are Amy's feelings toward Jim? What are her feelings towards herself? How does Amy...
Amy, you going home now? Come on, I'll walk with you.
Sarah, listen. What I said back there, you know, about Jim, he's really not like that. I mean, he did try to be fair, and I just wouldn't listen. I made such a fool of myself chasing after him and trying to hold on to him. I just want to crawl into a hole and disappear.
Don't be so hard on yourself, Amy. It's natural to want to hold on to someone, and it's scary to let go. You know, lots of people would do what you did. So what if you made a mistake? We all do. Come on, forgive yourself.
But I just feel so down, so lonely without Jim. Like I can't do anything right, like I'm, well, worthless, and no guy will ever want to go out with me again. There must be something wrong with me. Otherwise, why would Jim even want to break up?
Amy has finally identified the feelings underneath her anger. She's sad, lonely, and embarrassed. Worst of all, she's deeply worried that something's wrong with her, that she's not attractive or desirable, and those are painful. But once they're out in the open, Amy is ready for the next step in dealing with them. That next step is for Amy to stand back as if she were... Are her feelings realistic for her situation? Step 2, stand back. Imagine you're someone else looking at your situation. Then decide if your feelings are realistic for that situation. Amy assumes Jim broke up with her because something is wrong with her. What might Jim's reasons be? Amy expects that no other boy will ever find her attractive. How realistic is that expectation? How do Amy's feelings about herself affect her behavior?
Amy, just because Jim dropped you, it doesn't mean you're Dracula. He liked you. There'll be other guys, you'll see.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Jim really did. Doesn't mean something's wrong with me, does it? I guess I've really been feeling paranoid. I'm sick and tired of it.
Amy has learned the first 2 skills for coping with a crisis. First, she acknowledged and experienced her feelings. Then, she stood back and decided if they were realistic for her situation. By doing so, she brought them down to a size she can handle. Now, Amy realizes she's tired of her misery. She wants to let those painful feelings go. The last few weeks have been like living in a dark tunnel, but finally she's on her way out. And what she's learned will help her all her life. Mark was able to use the same techniques to help him with his problem. He recently moved away from the town he grew up in.
It was a couple of months ago that my mother told me we were moving away from Elmwood. Dad had this offer of a better job in Danville, and my folks were real happy. I could understand that, but I really didn't want to go. I was in the middle of my junior year, and it would be rough changing schools at that stage. I hated leaving everything I knew. My friends, the high school's so big. It was really a change from what I was used to. I hated it. You know what it's like trying to find your way around a new school with kids who won't even bother to stop and help you? And sitting in strange classes with a bunch of snobs. I hated the school, and I hated the kids. I didn't even bother to go out for a team. and I'd always been in some kind of sport. After a while, I started cutting classes. I just couldn't face all those unfriendly kids. I just sort of hung around at home, too out of it to do anything. Even reading the newspaper seemed like too much of an effort. At first, my folks didn't notice how rotten I felt. That is until Mr. Pizarro, the guidance counselor, called my dad.
Mark, I just spoke to Mr. Pizarro. He said you've been cutting classes and that you're not keeping up with your schoolwork either. And, that's just the opposite of the Mark I know. What's happening to you?
What was happening was that Mark was going through a bad time. To get out of it, he needed to deal with his feelings beneath the surface. He started by using the same 2 steps that worked so well for Amy. Step 1, acknowledge your feelings. Allow yourself to experience them. Identify them. What do you think Mark was feeling when he entered Danville High School? How do you think Mark is feeling about himself and his ability to get along in the world?
Look, Dad, don't bug me. I'll stop cutting classes, and I'll get through it some way or other. But don't ask me to love it here.
You'd like it here a lot better if you just tried to make some friends. You act so unfriendly. Like when Pete Sampson called the other day. How come you were so short with him?
Leave me alone, Dad. I don't like the town, I don't like the school, and I hate the kids. And that's the way it is. I ran out of the yard and kept running, not really caring where I was going. But I couldn't help thinking of what Dad had said about acting unfriendly. I kind of daydreamed about how I'd walk into school and smile and talk to people, and it would all work out. But would the kids really accept me? What I'd been feeling? That's when I realized I didn't really hate the kids. I hated the way I was feeling. I was just plain scared. I had to pull out somehow.
Mark finally recognized that he was afraid of being rejected. He was ready for step 2 in the crisis technique. Step 2, stand back. Imagine you're someone else looking at your situation. Then decide if your feelings are realistic for that situation. Mark assumes that the kids in Danville are all snobs. How realistic is that assumption likely to be? Mark expects to be rejected in his new school. Is that a realistic expectation? What is Mark doing to contribute to the situation?
Once I understood that I was afraid, I was able to give Danville a chance. I knew I'd been able to make friends before, so maybe, if I tried, I could do it again. Even if I was scared, it was dumb not to at least give it a try. All that happened 2 months ago. Wow. When I think of the way I felt then, I'd never been so down in my whole life. But things are getting better now. And out with a couple of kids. Don't get me wrong. Nobody's electing me class president. Not yet, anyway. Only about 3 people even know my name. But I do feel different. Like it's gonna work out. I can...
Ted Cirillo is a natural-born athlete. Football is his game. In junior high, he was captain of the school's team. First year in high school, Ted was chosen most valuable freshman player. He had plenty of friends, on and off the team. People admired him. Ted's a junior now, and things aren't so good for him anymore. You see, 2 years ago, he stopped growing. And it's obvious that, like his parents, he's always going to be small. Too small for football. The coach has been nice about it, But he doesn't have much use for Ted on the team anymore. These days, Ted spends most of his time on the bench. Ted realizes he'll never again make it in the game he loves, and today he finally reached a painful decision. Ted doesn't know where he's going from here. Suddenly, ever since Ted quit football, he's had a chip on his shoulder. He's so touchy that his friends are avoiding him. He takes every remark as an insult. And just today, he picked a fight with one of his old teammates. The result is, he's been suspended for the rest of the week. He's in trouble at school, and worse, in trouble inside himself. And he needs to start dealing with his feelings. The crisis technique can help him. Step 1, acknowledge your feelings. Allow yourself to experience them. Identify them. How do you think Ted might be feeling about himself and his future? Step 2, stand back. Imagine you're someone else looking at your situation. Then decide if your feelings are realistic for that situation. Are the feelings you described in Step 1 realistic thing that is likely to happen to him?
I've been feeling so low, and these last few days have given me a chance to really look at what's bothering me. The problem is, I feel like I'm nobody. My life is ruined because I'm small. It seems so unfair. I mean, when I was on the team, I knew who I was and what I was. It felt great to belong. I love the hard physical work, the competition, the excitement of the game. But now, I have nothing. And I'm too small to be good for anything. I always saw myself as strong, you know, a real athlete. Now it's like I have to forget that picture of myself. But I don't have a picture to put in its place. That's a scary feeling. I guess I'm angry about feeling scared. That's how I got into that stupid fight with Jerry, being angry all the time. It sort of feels like my life is ending. And thinking about it, I know that's not true. I mean, there are some things in my life that are still okay, but that only helps a little. How am I supposed to deal with the way I feel? How am I going to handle my life?
Before Ted can handle anything, he has to get into emotional shape to handle it. Right now, he's feeling rotten. That's exhausting. It leaves him unable to cope. So he needs to find a way to feel good about himself, to get going again. That's step 3 in getting through the bad times. Engage in activities that you feel good doing you. What activities would you suggest to someone like Ted? What benefit might he expect from each activity?
By my second day home on suspension, I thought I'd go crazy just sitting around. I needed to do something, anything. So I started working out, and a funny thing happened. Even though I never much liked working out, just using my body made me start to feel a whole lot better. I even felt good enough to help little Larry now I was Superman. I mean, here was someone who really thought I was okay. That helped me. I mean, better about yourself. The next day, I had to report to Mrs. Gold to have understood how I was feeling about myself.
Ted, I want you to try something. Try listing 10 good things about yourself. Now, don't be modest. Be as honest as you can. You know, sometimes when you've had a setback, that can help you get things into perspective again.
I felt embarrassed at first, but pretty soon I got into the spirit of it. I found I could honestly say some good things about myself. I get along well with people. I'm dependable, a hard worker, and as an athlete, I'm cool under pressure and strong in coordination, speed, and teamwork. As I read over my list, I began to think that maybe my size didn't have to ruin my life. I guess everyone has to live with something. And I didn't have to let my something destroy me. Maybe I could do something that would take the place of football. Mrs. Goldman had been right. Listing my good points really did help.
The things that help Ted feel better can help others, too. Physical activity helps dilute depression. A positive reaction from someone, even from a loving pet, raises one's self-image. Talking the problem over with a person you can trust can ease some of the tension and contribute another point of view. And when you're feeling down on yourself, listing your positive qualities can restore your perspective. Different activities work for different people. It's important to learn and remember what activities work best to help you feel better, because they will get you ready for Step 4 in the crisis technique. Step 4. Think of alternative solutions to the problem. Choose one to try. Based on what you know about Ted, what might Ted do instead of football? Think of all alternatives, practical. Number them in the order that you think would be the best for Ted. Cross out all but the top alternatives. Discuss which of the top alternatives you think would work best for Ted. Ted did a lot of thinking about how he might fill the void in his life. He tried the drama club and even started playing his trumpet again. But he eventually realized that what he really wanted was an aggressive team sport where size wouldn't matter. He found it in soccer. He's practicing hard to learn the necessary skills, and from the way things look, he's on his way to being a key team member. For Leslie, life is a long way from being straightened out. She's so upset, she's even staying out of school. In fact, she hasn't gone to school since the day Rosa came over. She just can't face the kids, because now they know her secret. Her father is an alcoholic, and when he drinks, he's crude and nasty, sometimes even violent. For 2 years now, Leslie's been trying to keep her father's alcoholism a secret. I wonder what kind of awful family she must have. She was so afraid of discovery, she even avoided her friends. More alone. The things she dreaded. Because Rosa dropped by unexpectedly the other day, and Leslie's dad answered the doorbell, drunk, swearing. When Leslie tried to cover up for his behavior, he turned on her and made a scene. Now, Leslie is afraid everyone will know, and she feels overwhelmed, unable to cope. Using the crisis technique can help her get through her bad time. Step 1. Acknowledge your feelings. Allow yourself to experience them. Identify them. Why do you think Leslie didn't want anyone to know about her father? How do you think she's feeling about her father? About herself? How does she seem to expect her friends to react to her now that they know her secret? You're someone else looking at your situation. Then decide if do you think Leslie's feelings toward herself and her father are realistic for the situation? Do you think most people would react? What's the worst?
All this time, I thought I was protecting Dad by keeping his alcoholism a secret. After all, I love him. He's a good father when he's sober. But he's sick. He can't help himself. In some crazy way, I felt that if nobody knew, maybe the problem wouldn't be so real. You know, like magic, it might even disappear. And I was so scared people would make fun of us, gossip about us if they found out. Rosa helped me figure things out. She stopped by again on Saturday. She was taking her brother to the playground and insisted that I come along. Rosa hadn't told anybody about my father. I was so relieved. And knowing I could trust her, I found myself opening up. Rosa, I was so humiliated the other day. I think we had him all along because of what his drinking's doing to him. And Mom and me. Because of him, I don't have any friends anymore. And I feel ashamed all the time. I know I should feel sorry for him, but I don't. I just feel mad at him.
Leslie, I don't see why anything wrong with you. And I'd sure be mad if it was my father. You shouldn't feel guilty. Anybody would be mad, even though they felt sad for him at the same time.
Yeah, but the kids, what if they find out?
Sometimes I wonder about you, Leslie. Can you name even one of your friends who'd drop you because your father has a problem?
Well, maybe Kathy. You know what she's like.
What if Kathy drops you? So what? Will that ruin your whole life?
Talking with Rosa has helped Leslie take 2 steps toward handling her crisis. She acknowledged her feelings and checked out how realistic they are for the situation. Now, she needs to get over the pain of the last few days so she can start to look for solutions to her problem. That's step 3 in the crisis technique. Make a mental note of the ones that work for you. Who else might Leslie talk with about her process to her?
When I got back home, I realized that my room reflected the way I felt. It was a mess. I needed to clean the room up, in control of things, more able to cope. The next day was beautiful, so I decided to take a bike trip to my favorite place in the woods. I'd packed a lunch and my notebook too. Well, sometimes, when I have problems, it helps me to write down my feelings about them. When I'm thinking, just enjoying the place. And then the thoughts started coming. I started writing it all down, how I'd been feeling, and what my system.
With Rosa, getting her room in order, her visit to her favorite spot, writing out her feelings, all these things have helped lift her enough out of her crisis so that she can finally handle the task of considering alternative solutions. She's starting step 4 of the crisis technique for getting through the bad times. Step 4. Think of alternative solutions to the problem. Choose one to try. Which solution do you think Leslie should try? Continuing her secret or being open about her father's alcoholism? What are the pros and cons of each alternative? Can you think of other alternatives?
I had 2 choices, to keep the secret or to be open about Dad's drinking. I knew I couldn't handle keeping the secret any longer, but I couldn't just announce it to everybody. Mother went all at once. Then you can handle each part one at a time. That's just what I did. I saw my problem as having 3 parts. The second is how I problem of how to deal with the kids. I already know how I'll deal with the kids. I'm going back to school tomorrow. I'll be friendly, and I'll just have to take my chances on having people find out about my father's drinking. But my feelings about my dad and about me, I knew I needed help in handling these 2 parts of my problem. I'd heard about the hotline you can call for personal problems, and I decided to call as soon as I got home. I found the hotline number listed in our local telephone book. Alcoholics Anonymous that helps teenagers cope with alcoholic parents. It'll work for me someday soon, I hope. Dad and I'll be able to work out our problems. I'm scared. But I was scared. Now it's a real relief to be faced.
Time will tell. Try. And
Jerry? Jerry, where are you?
Kitchen.
Now, let me get this straight. You're not sure anymore that you want to go to college?
That's right, Dad. I got a letter that the registration fee's due in 2 weeks. But if I send, I'm just not sure.
Let's talk about we've been through all this before. What happened to change your eyes of Western University? Handling the...
I mean, Western U's so far away. I never even... The problem is me.
Jerry? Come on now. Isn't college what you really want deep down?
Dad, you don't understand. I don't know what I want. I think something's enormous to make it.
Jerry Sanders is facing a crisis that many high school seniors go through: how to plan his future. He feels caught in a web of indecision, and it's making him miserable. He doesn't want to disappoint his family, but at the same time, he wants to do what he thinks is right for himself.
Jerry, wait a minute. Don't just walk out like that. I'm coming with you.
I'm sorry, Dad. I'm really sorry. I feel like I'm letting you down. But if I go, and if we spend all that money, and I spend all that time, and then it turns out to be wrong for me, what a waste that would be. Maybe I should just keep my job at the bowling alley. You know, get my act together for a year, and then figure out what to do.
How is working in a bowling alley gonna help you decide, Jerry? At least in college, you could take different courses and see what might interest you. And I think you need a degree to make a decent living these days. Without it, you'd just be shortchanging yourself.
But it's my life, Dad. I know I'm being a pain, but I just can't make up my mind.
Well, I don't know how we're gonna resolve this. You're just gonna have to decide for yourself. You know I want you to go, Jerry, but the decision is up to you. I'm gonna make out a check to the college right now in the exact amount of the registration fee. Now, you can mail it to them, or you can tear it up. It's your decision.
No, put it away, Dad. I don't want you to do that. That only makes it worse. Please, don't, Dad.
I'm sorry, Jerry, but this is one decision you've got to make for yourself. Now, you think about it.
Jerry felt bad before, but it's 100 times worse now. He feels he's disappointing his father. And now his father has handed the whole mess back to him, along with a check. Jerry's entirely on his own. He feels as if he's on a course with no destination, but he can't seem to do anything about it.
I don't want this check. I don't want to have to decide. I don't even know how. I always had a tough time deciding things. Like figuring out whether to go out for a sport, which course to take, things like that. I don't know, it's like a character flaw, I guess. A month ago, I was all set to go to Western U. Now I don't think I want to. But hanging out here and working in a bowling alley doesn't look so great either. But I'm not sure I'm ready to leave here. Maybe waiting a year will help me decide. I don't know. Most of the kids aren't going to be around. Todd and Angel are going to be in college. That's a whole different world. We probably wouldn't even have much in common anymore. But what if I do go? And maybe the workload's too much for me. I'd feel worse failing than if I never went at all. What's wrong with me? Why can't I decide? It would sure make Mom and Dad happy for me to go. I should just send out this check and at least please my parents. But if I make the wrong choice, I'm stuck for the rest of my life. My whole future depends on whether I send that check or not.
Jerry is overwhelmed, unable to resolve his problem. He needs to use the crisis technique to deal with the bad time he's going through. Review each of the steps listed on the screen. Discuss how Jerry might handle each step and the results you think he might get from them. 1. Acknowledge your feelings. Allow yourself to experience them. Identify them. 2. Stand back. Imagine you're someone else looking at your situation. Then decide if your feelings are realistic for that situation. 3. Engage in activities that you feel good doing. Make a mental note of the ones that work for you. 4. Think of alternative solutions to the problem. Choose one to try. Marie has been going with Doug for over a year. Doug is the first boy she ever felt she really loved, and he's been terrific. Loving, caring, fun to be with. That is, until recently. Lately, Marie has had to face the fact that Doug has an increasingly serious drug problem. A few months ago, he started taking uppers to get himself going, and then it was downers to calm down. It got worse and worse, and now it's so bad he can't get through a single day without taking something. Marie keeps hoping she can help him stop this vicious cycle, but this is going down him. First, she'd teach a quarterly exam. Afraid it was he always promised this would be the last time. So she gave him the money and relatives, always giving some lie as an excuse. Marie doesn't like lying, fooling people she cares about, started to avoid her friends. Her friends just don't understand.
Hi, Marie. Where have you been lately? Never see you anymore.
Oh, I've been around. Just busy, I guess.
Yeah, well, something must be wrong. You never come to parties anymore. What's wrong?
Please, I gotta go to work now.
Well, excuse me. I mean, if you can't tell when someone's trying to help, you're in pretty bad shape. You've got a lot of people who care about you, Marie, but don't press your luck. You know, even the best of friends can run out of patience.
Marie would like to be able to talk about her problem, but she doesn't dare. She doesn't want to make Doug look bad, and she wants to protect herself, too. So she's shut herself off from everyone except Doug. The two of them are in their own little world, a secret, isolated world. And now it's worse than ever. Ever since the day the money disappeared from the junior prom fund. Somehow, word got to Mr. Jordan, the school principal, about Doug's strange behavior, and Doug became the prime suspect. But Doug kept insisting he was with Marie that day. Marie confirmed his alibi, but Doug had not been with her. And she was... Since then, she hasn't stopped worrying about what will happen if Mr. Jordan learns the truth. She can picture Doug being arrested. Doug Day.
What are you doing here? You know Mr. Blake doesn't like people visiting while I'm working.
You just gotta help me out. You're the only one I could turn to.
Please, Doug. You promised me this wouldn't happen again. And I don't get my...
This time.
Lied for... And I...
Please, I just feel so hyper right now. I can't help it, Marie. I swear to you. Only a couple. Just this one time. Please.
Oh, Doug. Well, okay, just this once. Come to my house at 5 o'clock. I'll have it for you then.
Marie is torn by her pity for Doug and her own guilt over what she's doing for him. But when she sees him as he was this afternoon, her resentment evaporates and she can't help giving in to him. Marie hasn't been able to sleep, and studying is impossible. She can't see where it will all end, except in disaster. She feels as if she's being drawn into Doug's craziness, and she doesn't know how to get out of this crisis. How do you think she might use the crisis technique? Review each of the steps listed on the screen. Discuss how Marie might handle each step and the results you think she might get from them. 1. Acknowledge your feelings. Allow yourself to experience them. Identify them. 2. Stand back. Imagine you're someone else looking at your situation. Then decide if your feelings are realistic for that situation. 3. Engage in activities that you feel good doing. Make a mental note of the ones that work for you. 4. Think of alternative solutions to the problem. Choose one to try.